And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes, not just cases, MotleyRice.com, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at StokesVW.com for your New Year's ride. Find us at JBandGoldwaterShow.com, and, of course, follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. Coming up today, we obviously will talk about the top dogs in college football. No pun intended there. Georgia beats Alabama, and they win their first national championship since 1980. They also become the fifth SEC program since 2008 to win a national championship. So Georgia, if anybody in Dog Nation looks, sounds, or feels like Stetson Bennett, it's going to be a long Tuesday afternoon. He has had a rough morning, according to Good Morning America. For those that saw that, I don't know. I don't think that Stetson Bennett actually went to sleep. I think he just turned on the camera and away he went. But he certainly earned it with last night's performance over the Tide. Mike Morgan will be here at 12:30 today, and he certainly will talk a lot about that. And what's to come. We got a big offseason ahead in college football. No movement yet in the college football playoff expansion stuff. So we're going to get into all that with Mike Morgan, and certainly project ahead a little bit with spring ball right around the corner. We'll talk to him about some hoops as well. It's a great hoop slate tonight in college basketball, in addition to the fact that South Carolina is at Tennessee. So they have a huge opportunity up there for a top 25 win. We do have Keith Allsep ahead today at about 125, 130 this afternoon. Gamecocks continue to stay hot on the recruiting trail, and we're going to talk about that stuff. But certainly, Darren, most of the day will be dominated by the Dogs, who last night pulled away from Bama with that pick six and won the national championship.
You don't often get stuff right. I mean, it's a 50-50 proposition when you're betting, when you're predicting stuff. I was pretty close last night, so I felt pretty good. I thought it'd be a defensive game. I even said I think Stetson Bennett is going to make the plays that actually win this game. I don't think Bryce Young will play as well this time as he did last time. Of course, losing Williams didn't exactly help him there. But That was the game I thought. I didn't think it'd be some type of classic game. I thought it would be more low scoring. To be honest, it wasn't really even enjoyable for three quarters. It was, to say a chess match, maybe. I mean, it was a defensive struggle is what it was for the first three quarters. And then it opened up there a little bit, and there were some highlight plays that will eventually be remembered. But good for Stetson Bennett, good for Kirby Smart, and good for Georgia Nation, man. I mean, there is a lot of pressure on Kirby Smart to win this, because if you're going to get him, may as well get him now. So I'm happy for him, happy he got that monkey off his back, and it's the best team all year. They deserve to win the national championship. They were the best team all year long.
Oh, I agree with that. They were the best team all season, with the exception of one day in the whole year, and that's when Bama beat them in the SEC championship game. Outside of that, Georgia was the best team. Then they proved it again last night. And, yeah, the game played out exactly like I thought it would. It was very defensive in the first half. There was 36 combined points scored in the second half, and that's where the large majority of the scoring came from. I just totally disagree with you. I thought it was a classic football game. because from the get-go, they were we knew they were the two best teams in college football going in, but I love defense and I love physical football, and that's what it was all night. And of course, the game was won basically on a defensive play there at the end with that pick six, or it's not won, but sealed up, I should say, because Bama was driving. They were going to have to score and then convert a 2-point conversion, which in the minds of many would have made it one of the instant classics probably if that happened. But I enjoyed it from start to finish. There wasn't a second in that game that I didn't like. But I love defense. I don't like seeing the two best teams in football at the end of the year go up and down the field. I like seeing the strategy and the difficulty of scoring. And generally that's how it is in the Southeastern Conference. And it certainly was last night for a while. And then at the end of the game there, Georgia made that scoreboard look a little bit better than it was. But like you said, man, well-deserved. Couple of hiccups in the game for Stetson Bennett, and he just battled right through it and was able to come through and made some huge throws. And now he's not even hungover. Someone pointed out to me on Twitter today. He's probably still hammered.
I mean, may as well keep the party going. Why not, man? Keep it rolling. I like defense too. It's just the first few quarters, neither team could find any rhythm. So it wasn't just guys going out there and making plays. And they were going out there and making plays, but there was no rhythm. There was no fluidity. Neither offense could find any type of sync. Yeah, credit the defense. But it wasn't as much, it was good defense, but it wasn't guys flying around popping pads all the time. There were a few of those. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt there were. But then it opened up a little bit there in the second half. And that's where it was a little more enjoyable. I said yesterday, I said last week, I hope you guys are right in the 38-35, 38-27, in that prediction range, because I didn't think it was going to be there. That's the type of game I was hoping for, and that's the type that's typically thought of as a classic. Now, maybe if there's a 2-point at the end, and maybe, but this was slow going. I haven't seen ratings for this. I'd be shocked if they were great, though.
Yeah, I don't know. When did this come out? Middle of the week, probably?
They should be out today. I've had a busy morning. They could be out already.
I haven't seen them, but we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. Yeah, it was I saw in the Share Healthcare chat lines where you can chime in to be a part of our program here. Craig said Georgia has the fastest back seven I've seen at the college level. God, they can run. And you're right. It's amazing, Craig. We actually have a little text chain with my cousins, and we were texting last night, and I was like, the closing speed for Georgia's defense, which we saw it up close and personal all year long, obviously noticed it real quick in the Clemson game to start the season, and then certainly in the South Carolina game, what was that, week 3 or so, you knew how good those guys were. But last night on this level against a team of Alabama's caliber, watching it again, oh my gosh, it's like you get the ball in open space and you think, okay, something's about to happen, and then they're there, and they're there in bunches. It is amazing what Kirby Smart has recruited to the defensive side of the football over there. I mean, I don't know how else to say that. It was just awesome to see. Adam chimes in here and says, if last night taught us anything, it's that Bama is just as vulnerable when you lose star players as any other college team out there. Yeah, I think that's true. Well, especially at this level. I mean, their two best wide receivers were out of the game for the large majority of it. One of them certainly was, and then the other one goes down, Williams, with the injury. And credit to Bryce Young, who battled all night, and he put some balls on the dang money. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of us, I'm including myself clearly, have any idea how good some of his throws were last night. And then at the end of the game, a couple of them were forced, and I think he was just kind of taking it into his own hands, trying to make probably almost too much happen at that point in time to bring Bama back. But they had some drops and just some miscommunication issues here and there. A lot of young guys playing, as Saban pointed out. That did affect them. They had guys out in the secondary. I'm not making an excuse for them or anything like that. I'm just saying it did affect Alabama. But we're so used to Alabama just plugging and playing the next guy, and it just all works out. But a team as good as Georgia, not this time.
Right. And that's where they were able to take advantage. They were able to take advantage of youth in the secondary. And one receiver, we had this conversation a bunch. One receiver down, probably going to be fine. And they looked like that aspect of the game was going to be fine until he went down last night. And then you're down 2. And then there was nothing. Couldn't run the ball. And you don't have your 2 top targets. And the talent, I think Herb Street pointed this out. And I was flipping between a couple of the broadcasts. But the talent is there, right? You're plugging with uberly talented dudes, but the reps aren't there. So you could have stud A1 following stud A who just got hurt. But if you don't have the same reps with Bryce Young, if you're not out there regularly in practice and in gameplay with Bryce Young, then that affects you. And if you're not exactly on point against Georgia's defense, that's going to be a problem. So it was a problem. And Alabama's offense, Bryce Young, I think he showed again, even though it wasn't numbers-wise one of his best games. He had to throw it almost 60 times. Yeah. But he still showed again why he won the Heisman. I mean, he took a beating. He put it all on his shoulders, and he had him in position for a good portion of the game, even deep into the game. With about a minute to go, he had him in position, largely due to what he was able to do and his defense.
Yeah, I mean, they Bama, credit to Brian Robinson. He actually had, I would say, a pretty good game in a game of this magnitude with what Georgia had done. They shifted some things around defensively, and we knew they would. You pointed this out yesterday about, what type of changes would both of these teams make. Even though it all worked out for Bama the first time around, there was no way that Georgia was just going to just stand pat, and clearly Bama knew that. So they were also going to have to make some changes. I mean, Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, and Will Muschamp are all on that staff, and they were ready to go. I think it was 30 yards rushing last night for Bama. We got to remember a lot of those yards that were lost were because of sacks. Robinson had 22 carries for 68 yards. So Bill O'Brien actually drew up a pretty good offensive game plan. But that Georgia defense, I mean, there were a couple of drops for Bama. That the Hall drop, that would have probably been a touchdown, if not getting them to the 1 or the 2 yard line. But the Georgia defense, like how about the pass to Latu that went down the sideline, and then what's the corner's name who the pick six?
I don't remember what his name was.
Oh my God. His name is Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo kind of got juked on the play, and he had to play catch up, and he chased him down. And had he not done that, obviously Latu would have scored. What they end up doing? They kicked a field goal, and Georgia just buttoned it up inside the red zone and forced field goal after field goal after field goal. So early in the game, when everybody was exchanging the field goals, I'm sitting here thinking, y'all got to look deeper at this. Where is this going to bite Bama? It's got to bite them at some point in time, and it did because they just couldn't punch it into the end zone. So I give the Georgia defensive game plan literally the MVP trophy for winning this thing. They locked down. They only gave up field goals early. Clearly the pick six at the end of the game, and they just continued to pressure Bryce Young, and eventually it caught up to him.
The whole mantra for this Georgia team, specifically defensively, was that they weren't in good enough shape in the SEC championship game. And when I first heard that, I kind of shrugged it off. Roger Hoover even brought it up yesterday about Jordan Davis saying something like that, and he kind of shrugged it off. But then the more I listened and went through, a lot of the pregame coverage, by the way, Feinbaum I thought was outstanding, and not really because of him, but because of the format of his show. It wasn't just people breaking things down. It was interviews and going a little bit deeper. It's kind of similar to how The Athletic writes. That's kind of a sidebar here. But the idea that they were actually out of shape in the SEC championship game, and part of that goes to the fact they really haven't played 4 quarters all year. They haven't had to play 4 quarters all year. And not only did they play 4 quarters, they played probably the most physical 2 quarters, then 2 more quarters than they had played all year. And the defense, Jordan Davis included, took it upon themselves to run gassers before and after every practice. Jordan Davis, it was well documented, running on the hotel treadmills wherever they were in between those 2 times. It was a point of emphasis, and it's hard for me hearing all of that leading up to the game and then seeing how the game played out to not think, you know what? They went out there and they earned this thing because they won it. The defense won it in the first half. by limiting. You never see Alabama get close and inside the red zone and pushing for touchdowns and then settle repeatedly. That just doesn't happen.
That's right.
Georgia's defense won it in the first half.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, absolutely. I mean, that happens, but not like that. I mean, it just kept happening, and you just got that feel. It was early. It was like, gosh, at some point in time, this just might be the bugaboo for him. Yeah, and it was. And Alabama deserves a ton of credit because defensively they were really good. I mean, they gave up a couple of deep balls to Stetson Bennett, who does throw it really well. But overall, I think they gave up three. I just pulled it up a minute ago to make sure I was right. Yeah, 364 total yards of offense. That's fantastic for a national championship game for the Tide and their defense, and led by Will Anderson. And but it just wasn't enough last night because they couldn't really get it going. And then that pick six there at the end was, South Carolina, Clemson fans. No, I don't think the large majority of them wanted to see Georgia win it. But I have to admit, as a fan of the sport of football, it is neat seeing a pick six inside of the final minute to seal things up. I can only imagine what was going through Keely Ringo's head as he ran down the sideline and saw all of his fans having heart attacks in the stands, knowing that, hey, 40-plus years is in the books. I mean, this thing is over in favor of the Dogs. Yeah, it's amazing. And for Kirby Smart, might as well be. Muschamp's basically going to be his defensive coordinator next year. For Kirby Smart, I know he's caught a lot of flack. But I mean, Darren, first of all, I got a trivia question for you. I want to see if you get this because you might miss it. How many, this is as far as I know, I don't think anybody else is out there. How many current head coaches have won national championships?
I know the number is small. I want to say it's only like 2 or 3. It's small.
A little more. All right, so Kirby, Saban, clearly, and Dabo, right?
Uh-huh.
There's 2 more. One, you're going to go, oh yeah, he's in the SEC now.
That's pretty much what I figured.
Yeah, there you go.
Jimbo. Yeah.
There's one more.
I'm thinking out west for some reason.
No.
Ohio State didn't win one. There's not a national championship coach in the Big Ten.
No, not anymore because Urban's gone.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mac Brown.
Yeah, he's in college football still.
Mac Brown. Yeah, at North Carolina, obviously won it at Texas. But those are your 5. And so I just kind of pulled the numbers to see here. And now, look, every situation's different, clearly, Darren. But Saban coached in and won his first national championship in his 10th year as a head coach. But we all have to remember Nick Saban didn't just start at LSU. I mean, he had a career before that at Michigan State and so on and so forth. Urban Meyer coached and won a national championship in his 6th year. Of course, Urban Meyer did not start his head coaching career at Florida either, where he won that in 2006, his first one. Jimbo Fisher, as a head coach, coached in his first and won his first in his 4th year. It took Mac Brown 22 years to win a national championship. Dabo Swinney coached in his first in year 7, won his first in year 8 at Clemson. And Kirby Smart coached in his first in year 2 and won his first in year 6. So I'm not defending or criticizing or anything like that Kirby Smart. But in this league, with what has surrounded Georgia, and most notably on the western side, because there's a guy named Nick Saban coaching the Alabama Crimson Tide over there, you knew it was going to be hard to do it, and he's done it. So, and yeah, they have a boatload of talent. There's no doubt. He didn't take over a program that needed rebuilding. Mark Richt left him the keys to a Ferrari, basically, but he did not run it into the ground. He didn't. I mean, he's done the exact opposite of that. He has continued to win. I know earlier in the year we compared like his wins and losses versus Rick's wins and losses through 5.5 years and all this stuff. He's coached in 2 national championships and he's won one. I mean, the dude deserves some credit. He might not want to give it to him for personal reasons. Some people out there and that's your prerogative, but he deserves some credit.
If you're a fan of sport and you don't want to give him credit, yeah, that can be your prerogative, but you're being an idiot. He deserves credit, right? I mean, Look, this was the year. We came into the year. It was one of the narratives of the year. Will this finally be the year? And even the way you lay it out, even that seems a little crazy. Will it finally be the year? It's year 6. He's already been to one title, and now he's got a loaded team now coming into this year. But will this finally be the year? Because if you're going to get Bama at any year, this will be the year. The schedule is going to lay out for you. Can you pull it off? And part of that was JT Daniels. So where I'm going with this is maybe you deserve some more credit than he's getting from even us. Because not only has he accomplished this in the time he's accomplished it, but I assure you, coming into this year, none of us were thinking, yes, Stetson Bennett's going to be the guy. And not just the guy at the end. He was the best quarterback on that team all year, right? I mean, this was the guy, this was their ride or die, and it was Stetson Bennett. That's not part of the story. That's not how this story was supposed to go. So a lot of credit to Kirby, a lot of credit to Stetson Bennett, because, I mean, look, man, if that's the way he's going to get it done, and he took some injuries early on in the year too, and it was still just a dominant team, it's absolutely deserved. If people out there don't want to give Kirby credit, get lost, man. Go find something else to do.
Yeah, it's. I mean, look, personally speaking, I mean, I think you could probably have everybody criticizes everybody for something, but professionally speaking, nah. I mean, Kirby Smart he's done an outstanding job as a head coach at Georgia, and now they've won a national championship, and I mean, this might truly be the start of something here. I mean, they're recruiting at an elite clip. Them and A&M and Bama are the 3 teams to watch moving forward in the SEC. Everybody else is going to be playing catch up until you're not. It wouldn't shock me moving forward at all to see all of these teams continue to kind of knock each other off in the playoffs, in the regular season, in the SEC championship game, although A&M hasn't been there yet. But, they think that they're on the verge of getting there, and they're going to have a team that's talented enough to do it. This is them. I mean, it's amazing. And you mentioned Stetson Bennett, and I just have to mention this. Carolina fans have long rejoiced in this stat, but it's over. 4,107 days to yesterday. That's how long it had been since an SEC Eastern team beat Alabama, and that is over. So the last 2 quarterbacks to do it are Steven Garcia and Stetson Bennett, and I would venture a guess the one thing that both of them have in common is they probably looked about the same this morning after both games.
Yeah.
That was, So 4,107 days, Darren, is incredible.
Look, man, let's all go get flip phones. If we all go get flip phones and don't pay attention enough to social media, then we can go excel at our jobs like Stetson Bennett excelled at his.
It's amazing.
That's the motto of the day, I think.
Absolutely. It's just amazing what happened last night. So the Dogs win 5 of the 8 now in the playoff era. National championships belong to the Southeastern Conference. 2, of course, belong to the ACC, but really they belong to Clemson. And then the Big Ten's got one in Ohio State. That was the first one for folks that maybe have forgotten that back in 2014. 6 different SEC teams have now won the national championship since the BCS era, because a lot of us forget that it was T. Martin in Tennessee that won that first BCS national championship back there.
Right after Peyton.
1998. Yeah, the year after Peyton leaves.
Yeah.
Here comes old T. Martin. 14 of the 24 national championships in college football belong to the Southeastern Conference. Southeastern Conference since the BCS era began. You know what's interesting? 5 of 8, Darren, in the playoff era are SEC teams. 9 of the 16 in the BCS era were BCS teams. 5 divided by 8 is about 62%. 9 divided by 16 is about 56%. It's really about the same. The BCS and the playoff era, it's been about the same amount of time, numbers wise, that the Southeastern Conference has won the championship. So that has, here we go again. And next year they're going to have a pretty good shot to do it once more.
Yeah, long run of consistency. By the way, we had this conversation at some point about quarterbacks and Was it Scott Glaze who brought it up last week? I think it may have been. But the storybook writing of quarterbacks, just in terms of, can you believe it? And in Stetson Bennett, and ESPN threw up a graphic at some point in their pregame coverage yesterday. He's the first former walk-on to start at quarterback in a national championship game. So the answer is there's nothing comparable. Nothing. I mean, we can go through that list again and pick some names, but there's nothing comparable.
Yeah, I saw that last night, and I was like, "Oh, that answered our made-up trivia question last Thursday." I agree. Yeah, that was incredible. His story, yeah, it's. I mean, some of the stories that floated this year. I mean, that story, leaving for junior college, coming back on scholarship, being buried in the depth chart. I mean, Kirby Smart has admitted basically, yeah, we told this kid he's not going to play here.
Sure.
I mean, he's basically told him that. Most coaches. The narrative's the other way publicly. So I give Kirby props for that and saying, we basically told him this ain't gonna work. But he stuck around and stuck with it. And that's in this era of transfer portals, this, that, and the other. It's a great story to tell. So the Zeb Nolan story this year. I mean, there's a lot of neat stuff in our neck of the woods we've been able to discuss for the last few months. But nothing like this right now. Stetson Bennett has won the national championship with Georgia as a former walk-on, and they say he's listed at 5'11", but probably about 5'9.5". Wow.
Yeah, what do they list his weight at? Because he looks like he's 165.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know.
He looks like a little thing just running around out there, and every time he's running and we thought we'd see him run, and he did run right early on when he fumbled the ball, but every time he's running in the midst of that defense, I'm like, don't die, man. Just don't get split in two.
He was rattled early, but he got it together. So did Georgia. They win. We all win. Up next, Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations: Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, 12:31 on this Tuesday afternoon. This just after National Championship College Football season ends Tuesday afternoon here on our program presented by Molly Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen. I imagine Mike will be in here in just a moment. Darren monitors the back channels of our programming.
We got our own green room, like any good, let's say, like Tonight Show or concert venue. We have a green room. So when they're in the green room, I open the door and allow them the gateway to the screen.
Well, hopefully Mike's not in the blue room. He needs to be in the green room. He might be in the wrong room. No, Mike will be in here in just a little bit. Yep, Adam here on the Share Healthcare chat lines just found out no Derek Scott tonight on the men's basketball call. Brad Muller tonight. That is true. Derek is in COVID protocols. So if you're going to be listening to the hoops from Knoxville tonight, Brad will have it. And Derek will be pulling for the Gamecocks from Columbia. They will be going up against a 22nd ranked Tennessee team that is 10-4 on the season and has had some struggles to start, maybe some unexpected struggles. Matter of fact, one of those who is struggling a little bit is Josiah James. He's from our neck of the woods. He's first of all, a heck of a human being, and he is a fantastic basketball player, a potential top pick in the NBA draft, but he's just not had the start to the season that he was hoping for, but he is dangerous. If he gets going, watch out. So we'll see what happens tonight with Porter Gaud's finest. Tennessee has creeped back up into the top 10 in net rankings. They are at 10 now, and South Carolina enters tonight at number 100. So obviously, if they are able to pull off a big upset of the Vols, they would be flying up the net ranking charts, which would be their 10th win of the year by version of the net now. It would be their 11th overall, but they played Allen. That game doesn't count when it comes to the net ranking stuff. So that's what
it's an opportunity tonight for the Gamecocks, and I think it's somewhat dangerous for Tennessee. They haven't been playing their best, and South Carolina's coming off one of their better wins. The line is huge, but I'll tell you, I've already got the Gamecocks. It was 15 when I got them. I don't think they're going to win the game. That's a huge line. I think they're playing better than that, and I think Tennessee isn't playing as well as they can be playing.
Yeah, Tennessee has lost 2 of their last 3, but to give them some credit there, they lost to Alabama and LSU on the road. Just a couple of games ago, they did upset 6th-ranked Arizona by 4 points, 77-73. Again, it's a dangerous Tennessee team.
Yeah,
it's going to be a very difficult night for South Carolina to walk into Thompson Bowling and try to pull it off. But enough of that. More of this. Mike Morgan with ESPN and the SEC Network, and let's see, the NFL and the ACC, all of it. Joins us here at 12:34 on this Tuesday afternoon. From if it's cold here, I'm venturing a guess it's probably pretty chilly in Atlanta as well.
Hey, good to be with you guys. Been too long. In fact, my setup here is rusty. It's been so long that we've done this. Yeah, it's sunny outside. I have not been outside yet. I've been doing some preparation for my game Wednesday. I've got Arkansas against Missouri, and Arkansas is. You want to talk about how good this league is? Missouri, Arkansas is 0-3. How in the heck? That was a team that was in the top 10 a month ago, and they're 0-3 in the SEC. Couldn't believe that line you just mentioned on Tennessee, Carolina. I just had Tennessee in a game against Ole Miss where Ole Miss did not have its leading scorer and Jarkel Joyner, and really they got hit by COVID, so they were struggling. They go in there, and Tennessee was so bad shooting the basketball that the game went into overtime before Ole Miss finally won it. Tennessee is as Jekyll and Hyde offensively as you'll find, just like they were a year ago. I don't understand it. I don't know why that is the case. but they just are, and that's something they're going to have to figure out. But I mean, that's if you're Carolina, you just hope you get them on that off night offensively, which has been frequent the last year and a half.
Yep.
Play your best game, and yeah, I don't blame Mr. Goldwater for taking the points on that.
Maybe I'll stay hot. I had Georgia last night too, against the world.
Listen, I like the yeah. We'll get to that, but yeah. How many points did you lay in that?
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, I couldn't believe Georgia was favored, but it was almost like again, Vegas, man. Vegas, they know.
The over-under was 52, right?
Yeah.
And there was 51?
It was 52, 52.5, depending.
How scary. How scary is that? Wow.
Pick six got him to 51. Somebody out there was going, no, Bama, please, God, don't come down and kick a field goal or score. It's amazing. Well, Mike, I have to say, you look better on our broadcast than Stetson Bennett looked on Good Morning America's.
I heard that was a little rough.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know he didn't get an ounce of sleep. You know he celebrated in style. If you're a booker for a morning show like that, then you got to expect a little bit of a hangover effect, right?
Dude, I don't know if he was to the hangover stage yet. He was in whatever land he was in, but I'm pretty sure when that hangover hits, it's going to be a tough one for him to deal with.
Yeah.
Maybe sleep it off on the plane or whatever it is. But Mike, that was I mentioned I loved every minute of that ball game last night, but I like defense, and I knew that these guys were going to be ready to go defensively. What did you think last night as that game unfolded, how it unfolded, just the way that it played out between the two best teams in college football?
Well, I would have taken the under. This is the most gambling talk we've ever had. I definitely would have taken the under on that for sure, because I thought the first game, Alabama winning did not surprise me. The aberration was how Alabama just marched up and down the field on 5 consecutive drives. And I said, I screamed from the mountaintops, anybody that would listen, the whole notion that they lost that game because of Stetson Bennett, which has become a popular narrative of everybody nationally who's teed off on that kid. And quite frankly, Bulldog Nation, I can't tell you how many Georgia fans are like, well, we got to start JT Daniels. Stetson Bennett can't win a championship. Stetson Bennett did make a couple of mistakes in that game. He also threw for like 340, the most passing yards anybody threw against Alabama all year. He wasn't that bad, and he's been good all year. Then he dominates Michigan. So the aberration was the fact that Alabama's offense, that's what won the game. 5 straight possessions they scored, 4 of them touchdowns in that game. That set the tone early on where Bennett and the offense had to play catch-up, and they don't have wide receivers. You saw the one kid that is a big-time wideout for Georgia, Pickens, and he made the big athletic catch. But he's been hurt most of the year. He hasn't been a factor, including in Atlanta.
Right.
Bowers is next world tight end. That kid could be in the NFL right now. But what surprised, what I thought would happen was that Georgia's defense would not be as porous, would not have a situation where they allow that many points in bunches. I saw them all year. I had them once. Like they are legit. That they weren't a fraud, as some people wanted to label them after the SEC championship game. So once that got together, you had the kind of game that you love, Jamie, and I expected, which was low scoring, hard hitting, struggling to get sustained drives, struggling to get big plays. Just the amount of athletic talent on both those defenses. If you want to know the difference between Georgia, Alabama, and everybody else this year in college football, it's on that side of the ball. It's just other defenses, yes, have talent, and some have first-round draft picks here and there. Nobody has what Georgia and Bama had this year. So the way the game went, that's the feel I expected. The fact that I certainly didn't know Jamison Williams was going to go out.
Right.
And
how much do you think that changed the?
I don't want to take away anything from Georgia when I say this. You already were down Mechie, who caught nearly 100 passes this year, and then you're going to take away Williams. Even Alabama doesn't have 5 more of those waiting in the wings. And if they do, they're like 18 years old, 19 years old, and they're not ready yet. Eventually they'll be there. So, but you take away the top 2 weapons of the Alabama offense all year long. Yeah, it was a factor. At that point, Georgia knew their weakness, which was their secondary. I say weakness, that's relative. They could more than handle what Alabama had at wideout. They could play man-to-man. And what Georgia did all along to be effective was what made them so unique. They could rush with 4 people and get pressure on everybody.
Yeah.
And then you'd have 7 back in coverage. So you felt good about you weren't going to allow a big pass play. Well, Alabama in the championship game in Atlanta said, we're going to block your 4. Our offensive line can block your 4, and they did that. And all of a sudden, your Heisman Trophy quarterback, Bryce Young, and his speedster receivers connected on a bunch of big plays. In this game, Georgia said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to blitz a lot. We're going to send 5. We're going to send 6 routinely. And especially with Williams not out there, we don't got to worry about somebody beating us deep over the top. And I do think that was a huge blow to Alabama. Not to take away anything from Georgia, but yes, that was a big loss.
What did you think early in the game when Bama consistently, I mean, Georgia as well, but Bama consistently getting in the red zone inside the 10-yard line, couldn't punch it in. They just kept kicking field goals. What were you thinking?
I thought it was huge. We're not used to seeing drives stall like that for Alabama. In a lot of ways, that was the difference in the game, right? Because Alabama had its chances early, but in the red zone, they could not capitalize. Georgia's defense would stiffen up and made the plays. So, again, that's where you really tip your cap to Georgia's defense. That was more about Georgia and how generationally good that defense is, which, by the way, they're going to lose a ton of guys. They're not going to be the same Georgia team next year. But that was the story. It wasn't like Alabama called the wrong plays or, Young choked in the big game. And it wasn't any of that. Georgia was just that good.
Yeah, it was. We mentioned going into the game, Mike, that on the defensive side of the football. I mean, I don't really bet on much, or I don't bet on anything.
Apparently, Darren does.
Yeah, it did. Darren.
I have been. I've gotten into it.
We got a degenerate over here. I love it.
Yeah, poor Darren. Yeah, no, I don't. But if I did, I would have bet that. I mentioned this yesterday. There was no chance that Georgia defensively in this game was going to look anything like they looked in the last one against Alabama. Dan Lanning deserves so much credit, but I mean, come on, let's be honest, right? I mean, Kirby Smart doesn't just stay away from the defensive room. Will Muschamp is right in the thick of it. Those are 3 of the best minds in the sport, and they've been thinking about this for a month. They probably knew they were going to see each other again, and this has been a consistent game plan between those 3. And I thought it was perfect. I really did. I thought it was. You could feel both teams like they were feeling each other out for a lot early in the game, trying to figure out when to strike quickly. And the chess match was fantastic with Bill O'Brien and those guys defensively. It was truly big boy football.
Yeah, no, I liked a lot about the game. No, I don't know what the ratings, if they're out yet. I'm not expecting a huge number because it's 2 SEC teams in the same part of the country, 3.5 hours apart. These games typically rate better when you've got like a Big Ten team against an SEC team or a Southern Cal, But so, I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people, they're like, oh, this is boring. I want more points. And I've seen Georgia, Alabama. I've seen this movie already 30 days ago, but I enjoyed the game as well.
Yeah. The point is to get the 2 best teams in the championship game.
Can I say something on that? No, I should have rubbed this into. I do a show in the morning for a guy that I used to work with, and he would always be anti-playoff, and he would try to convince me that BCS was good. Keep this in mind. If we had the BCS, which some people wanted to bring up even today, like, I don't like this 14 playoff. I think the BCS would be good. If we had the BCS, that matchup wouldn't have happened.
No.
Because Michigan, the team that got completely overmatched by Georgia, was number 2. Yeah. And we would have said, well, the BCS worked because 1 played 2, and therefore you don't need a playoff. That's what would have been said. That's the way some people look at it.
I agree. That conversation now clearly has opened the door because one of the things that, and this is just personally, I'm not upset about it necessarily, but it did bug me a little bit, the fact that the college football playoff committee decided that yesterday was the day to meet. They knew that information was going to come out from this meeting, and what's happening all day long. It's just constant info overflowing with, well, we're not moving forward, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. And I'm sitting here going, guys, can we pay attention to the two teams that are playing for the national championship tonight and worry about this crap tomorrow? I mean, it just felt to me like it took away a little bit from both Bama and Georgia. But that's either here nor there. But I mean, to your argument there, I mean, there was, you could have had a 100-team playoff this year. Nobody was better than Alabama and better than Georgia. But I'm just curious as to what you think is next for this whole this I don't even know what to call it anymore. This ordeal. They're meeting, they're not meeting, they don't know what to do. The SEC has this, the Big 12 thinks this, the Big 10 thinks this. I mean, what's the next step?
To expect 11 people to agree on anything in this day and age is almost impossible, right? So here's the key point. Because they're looking at breaking the contract early, the caveat is in that scenario, the vote has to be unanimous. 11-0, right? All 10 conference commissioners and Swarbrick of Notre Dame. That's just not realistic.
No.
But, I mean, it might still happen. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it will, that money and logic will prevail. But if it doesn't, then what happens is you just have to wait until the contract is up, and then you don't need a unanimous vote at all. And what really could happen is some of the Power 5 commissioners, if now it just so happens in this case, the ACC and the Pac-12, as I understand it, they're being a kind of a monkey wrench. But if like a Mike Oresco of the American, or God forbid somebody from the Sun Belt or somebody tried to hang this thing up, then the big boys could say, you know what? We'll wait till this contract's over, and when the new one comes, you're done. You're not even in our thing. We're just going to make this a Power 5 playoff. I hope that doesn't happen, but the point is that because you need a unanimous vote, that's why nothing's moving. That's why they keep banging their heads against the wall. They can't agree on 4-8-12. They can't agree on automatic bids for conference champions. They can't agree on how many should be conference champion automatic bids. There's a lot of anti-SEC. We don't want to see 4 or 5 SEC teams in a 12-team playoff, so we got to do something to regulate that. All these things are going on in that boardroom, and nothing is being resolved. And it's going to take closer and closer to the deadline for some of these people to realize, okay, if we don't do something that maybe we don't love to do, but makes us a lot richer, then we could wind up in the cold, and it won't be good for us at all. So I think that eventually is what prevails. When it prevails, I don't know.
I did find the Pac-12 statement yesterday interesting. We support literally every model that's ever been brought to the table, because the Pac-12 is like, just expand, please. My God, that's our only prayer to get into this thing. Somebody expand. But
they've been a problem because they want expansion, but they don't want it the way Greg Sankey and Bowlesby and those guys came up with it.
Right. I think there's 3 keys to this. This is just my opinion now. I think we need to find a way to make conference championships matter. I really do. I believe in conferences. I don't want to see some mass restructuring of conferences. I like conference. This is just me now. I like conference football. I like beating your chest for your conference. I like that. I've always enjoyed that. But so I think that's one. How do you make conference championships relevant? How do you get the best teams into an expanded playoff, whatever model it is, 8, 12, 6, whatever? And how do you keep bowl season relevant? And whatever middle ground they need to come up with, in my opinion, to make all 3 of those work is probably the model they need to use. But I'm not smart enough to figure that out.
I don't think any of them are either. I mean, that's a heck of a calculus that you have to come up with to accomplish everything you just said.
Yeah.
Because with every yin, there's a yang. Like if you're going to put all the emphasis on
conference championship games, then what does that mean? Do you want to keep it at 4? Because that would kind of make the conference championship games more relevant. If it's 12 and you've got 6 wild cards, then maybe you could make the argument, well, those conference championship games aren't as important. Although even in a 4, we watched an undefeated Georgia team get thumped and then make its way into the playoff and just win a national championship. But that luxury is only afforded to a rare one-loss SEC team. No other league is getting that in a 14 playoff. And they have to know that because 8 years of history tells us that. So if you want to be able to lose a conference championship game as a really good team and still make it to the playoff, then you better be hoping for 12 because it's your only hope if you're not in the SEC.
All right, so this year in the playoff, Mike, we saw Cincinnati and Michigan, new blood into the college football playoff. Georgia, new blood winning it with their national championship last night. Although they've been in the playoff before, there's also the argument that we're all arguing based on previous results, but we have, and this is the way that I see a lot of this in the future. Like you can't grow the top tier of the sport unless more teams, especially this transfer portal and all this stuff, all these kids flying all over the place and going to other schools. You can't have the top of the sport. You can't have a broader base of teams without more opportunity. Which way do you see it?
I might have misinterpreted your question. Say that one more time, please.
So I guess what I'm
Your Honor, I'm going to need you to repeat that, please. And talk to my counsel.
Yes, sir. By the way, you're married now, so you do have counsel. Yep. You're no longer the smartest guy in the room.
No, not at all. I never was really.
So if you have a 12-team playoff, Mike,
and
I'm just giving it, for instance, and Ole Miss makes it into the next 3 playoffs because it's been expanded to 12, and they get knocked out in the first round a couple of times. They win a first round game, then they get knocked out again. All of a sudden, Ole Miss is a consistent playoff team.
Yeah,
players start transferring over. Ole Miss becomes a juggernaut. I think there's some people out there that believe that you cannot expand the top of the sport without expanding the model in which it plays in, which would be the college football playoff. Right now, there's only 4 or 5 teams to consider every year.
That's right, and that'll be the case again next year. Alabama will be a runaway preseason number 1. Ohio State will be probably number 2. And then, Georgia. Yeah, I mean, Georgia loses a lot, but they'll be up there, certainly. And then,
and probably A&M, honestly.
Yeah, there'll be another SEC team up there. And maybe people, I don't know what Clemson's supposed to be next year off the top of my head, but, maybe they sneak in the radar. But anyway, I'm still not totally understanding your question, but
we talk about, you've mentioned this before. We could predict right now the 2025 college football playoff. We might be wrong, but we all have the same 4 or 5 teams
correct
in our minds. How do we in order to change that, more teams?
Well, yeah. So expanding the playoff, as you mentioned before, we could have had a 100-team playoff, and it still probably would have been Georgia and Alabama at the end. Sure. So I'm not saying expansion of a playoff gets rid of the fact that it is truly a haves versus either have-nots or don't have quite as much. That's going to be the same whether it's 4, 8, or 12. Alabama's still going to be Alabama. Georgia's still going to be Georgia. Ohio State's still going to be Ohio State. But it allows more teams to feel included and get to a playoff and at least have a chance. And that is something you can sell in recruiting. So that's a really big deal as well. I mean, I don't see much negative at all out of an expanded playoff. I mean, really, I can't find anything for you. Well, go ahead.
What about bowl season? How about less bowls and eliminating bowl tie-ins? What would you think about that to help keep the flavor of bowl season alive a little bit?
Well, when you say less bowls, so like I had the Cure Bowl, right, the first day, Coastal Carolina, Northern Illinois. And if we get less bowls, maybe that kind of bowl game isn't around anymore. Well, for those 2 teams, that meant everything. Mm-hmm. And the people that watched that game were thoroughly entertained because here's the thing about those bowl games that some people like to crack on. We had no opt-outs. We had no coaches entertaining other jobs. And we had no, and I mean 0, lack of enthusiasm or motivation from any player on either one of those sidelines. That's not the problem spot. The problem spot obviously isn't at the top either in the playoff teams. It's the middle. It's the team that it's LSU in a meaningless Texas Bowl playing a wide receiver at quarterback with 1,000,001 opt-outs plus a coach that's lame duck.
Great.
That or not even there. That is and same thing with
somewhere.
Yeah, right. Go Tigers. And same thing with Florida, right? Like a 6-6 Florida team that fired its coach. It's playing UCF, and for UCF, it's their Super Bowl, and for Florida, it's like, like that's the problem. I really think, all this NIL talk and everything else, like we ought to pony up more money for the guys participating in the bowl games. That's where I really want to see some of that extra money go to. I don't need to see guys complaining about, how poor they are in the regular season, but we are asking a lot out of these kids during the holiday season, particularly if it's their final year playing ball, to go play in some of these bowl games. I would like to see a little bit of a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, and it's definitely, we could make that happen. So I don't know. But I don't think having a lot of bowl games is the problem. The same issues. If we shave 10 bowl games off tomorrow, the same things that you're talking about are still going to exist. The same warts on college football's postseason are still going to be out there. Yeah. So to me, the bigger issue is just making the playoff right and more relevant and more inclusive, as opposed to just, how do we get rid of bowl games?
I think the fans too, and I'm absolutely among this group of how much do I really care about I've spent a lot of time during bowl season on this show. Like, all right, I understand it means something to the players. I understand to some sides more than others. I understand it means something on different levels to some fan bases, but in the big picture, do I care? I think we all kind of have to. Bowl season will never be what bowl season used to be, and the nostalgia that Jamie and a lot of people have of going to bowl games and having this big buildup and going wherever because it's a bowl game. Right. That's not what it is. It's a made for TV event, and even if I don't particularly care, like I watched your game because it was football and it was on, and the ratings were good. So that's what they're there for. They're there for who it matters for, and then all of us, me, kind of have to sit back and say, all right, that's what it's for. And then maybe that is reason to then say, all right, here's extra games that you do care about on the back end of it.
Yeah. I mean, again, you hit on it, and I've said this for years. The bowl games in December are made for TV events. It doesn't matter if there are 50,000 empty seats in the stands. They draw ratings because there's nothing else on that people want to watch in December. So I always make the analogy because I don't watch a lot of regular TV, right? I watch Netflix. I love documentaries. I watch a movie every now and then. I don't watch American Idol. I don't watch The Bachelor. I don't watch Survivor. I don't watch CSI Detroit, Miami, Sioux Falls. I don't watch any of these shows. So if I'm at my house and it's Thursday night at 8:00 and I'm like, hey, let's put something on, I'm watching a bowl game because what else am I going to watch? And that is how those games, again, get ratings and get revenues. So that's why they're on there. And for some of those teams, I mean, for those MAC teams, for example, I mean, everything that's their highlight. It is their one shining moment because they play in relative obscurity throughout the 12-game regular season. And then you had the Rose Bowl was terrific this year.
Yes, it was.
The Music City Bowl was terrific this year. We did have some very entertaining bowl games. What it means to the fans itself. Like, look, to circle back to Gamecock fans, after the second or third Outback Bowl, Jamie, the luster was off. And that's not because the bowl games, there's too many, or there's too few, or there's the playoff, or there's not a playoff. People just got tired of the same trip to Tampa. Like, we've been there, done that. So that's always going to be there. But I do think, again, it's just an expanded playoff. I just can't find a negative thing about it. And I do think it's an inevitability. But it's not just about the money. It is better, I think, for the sport.
I agree. JC had thrown out, hey, maybe we need to cut back on the bowl tie-ins. I mean, I get it. Some of them are classic and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
maybe there should be some more flexibility somehow.
It feels like those tie-ins are looser and looser, though, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, it does.
The Sugar Bowl used to be, the SEC versus whatever. Like, so much of those tie-ins now are very gray. I think. Well, first off, you got 44 bowl games, I think it is. So you're just finding enough teams that are even bowl eligible to fit the slots. And then of course at the top, the playoff will take away some of the traditional tie-ins. But outside of the Rose Bowl, like what bowl games have these super strict entrenched tie-ins anymore?
Rose. That's the one that always.
Well, yeah.
But then,
and even that with the playoff, like you're not getting Michigan this year.
Yeah.
So it's a tie-in. Yes, it's still Big Ten, but it's not the same tie-in that it used to be before the playoff.
Yeah. You'd probably end up finding anyways that a lot of the bowl games that are traditional to the tie-ins of each conference would just continue to select a lot of the same teams anyways because they're regional. I mean, you're not gonna find the Gamecocks in the Sun Bowl, right? I mean, why?
Right.
I mean, you're not gonna find Clemson in the Humanitarian Bowl in Boise, Idaho. Oh, well, you might. They did go once. That was back in 2002. Who did we say the quarterback was of that, Darren? We did this a couple weeks ago. Was it Willie? It wasn't Willie Simmons.
No, he came in. He was the backup.
Shotgun Willie Simmons?
No, it was Woody Dantzler.
Yes.
Woody Dantzler.
Woody Dantzler.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, Woody Dantzler was that quarterback. Are you Mike? Are you short on time, or do you have a couple of minutes?
No, go ahead.
We've kind of blown through the top of the hour.
Food delivery on the way, so go ahead.
Oh, what'd you order? That sounds wonderful.
This would be a Goldberg's Deli. It's a BLT.
Big fan of Goldberg's.
And an everything bagel as well.
We used to have a Goldberg's right here in beautiful Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I don't know what happened to Mr. Goldberg. He ditched us.
Well, he probably just put a few more here in Atlanta.
One less solid member of the tribe in Mount Pleasant, I'm guessing.
Left us for higher ground. Mike, you did bring up South Carolina. We haven't talked to you in a little while. Shane Beamer right now is he's doing some kind of something in Columbia. Not only did they win the Mayo Bowl and he got knocked in the head before he had a chance to have mayo dumped on him, which that was a total failure. The hitting him in the head part, the Mayo part was great. But they're just reeling in recruits, and they're not done at all in the transfer portal. There are a couple of other big ones out there that are probably going to make Carolina fans pretty happy soon if the deals get done, which is trending that way, Mike. But since we haven't spoken with you in a while, I wanted you to be able to address the Gamecock crowd here with the job that you have seen out of Shane Beamer and how he's grown as a head coach. I mean, from day one, first, being hired, first game, the way the season ended, and now what they're doing off the field and rebuilding this roster for the future.
I was probably one of 1,000 people that texted him after the game and just congratulating him on really a rabbit out of the hat season. How you squeeze 7 wins out of that team is that you can't do much more than that. And then you cap it off with a bowl win, which it's another one of those bowl games that, people joke about the Mayo Bowl, but for those two teams, it was relevant. It did matter. And obviously there was no lack of passion from either side. And then you get Spencer Rattler and you get a top 20 recruiting class, and now you're getting transferred. Like, I can't imagine the last 2 months of Gamecock football being any better, considering what Shane Beamer had to work with. So, so much of that now is based on momentum, and he's got it. And all the people that question the hire, look, I'm not ripping people that question the hire. Like, I get it. It was an untraditional outside the box hire. And when you make a hire like that, it's going to be under scrutiny. So I get it. But if you're questioning it now, I don't understand why. Clearly, they have got some optimism in there and some juice, to use a term the kids use a lot, surrounding Gamecock football that hasn't been there in a while. And front and center in all of that is Shane Beamer. I don't think your average coach wins 7 games this year. Your average coach doesn't get Spencer Rattler. Obviously, the ties to Oklahoma led to that. A lot of your average coaches would not have been able to recruit as well as he did, based on, this is 1-7-6 year following 2 bad years, and yet they did some good things, obviously, in recruiting. So if you're a Gamecock football fan and you can't feel good about this offseason, then that's on you. There's so many things to feel good about right now, and we'll see how it translates in 2022, the actual fall season.
Yeah, and I think, Mike, you couple that with the fact that the sport has changed so much. I mean, for everybody, clearly, but South Carolina is taking advantage of those changes, at least as it stands today, much more than many across the country. I mean, Steve Spurrier, Lou Holtz specifically, they had lengthy rebuilds in front of them. I mean, Lou did get it turned around in year 2 and sent South Carolina to the Outback Bowl. You mentioned that just a little while ago. Steve went to a bowl in his first season as well, but there was still a lot on the plate to get a roster turned over and things of that nature. You can do that quicker now than you've ever been able to do it in the sport. And it's almost like, I mean, I've had some conversations with some people who very well behind the scenes. It's almost like Ray Tanner knew this in hiring Shane Beamer, and that was one of those keys to him, was hiring a guy who could gain some momentum, who had relationships, and who could go out and get this thing at least more improve the talent and those types of things that you can control sooner than later, and right. So far so good.
Well, one thing I know about Ray is that he understands the DNA of South Carolina and that job as well as anybody. He's been around that program a long time. He knows the unique challenges that are there, particularly in a stockpiled SEC right now. He knows what South Carolina has financially in relation to what Texas A&M has, which can, strike checks for $30 million in NIL deals to lure a top recruiting class to College Station. South Carolina doesn't have that. And so you have to be a little more creative about things. You also don't have what Alabama has necessarily. You don't have what Georgia has. You have to be unique when it comes to recruiting, territory, resources, everything else. And so that's why I said South Carolina needs an outside-the-box hire. And I would have said that even if it wasn't Shane. I just thought enough of the hot coordinator and enough of the retread. Like, you got to do something different and unique here. I almost liken it to when Tennessee hired Bruce Pearl, and everybody's like, what? Or Alabama hiring Nate Oates. Yeah. You just have to. So at some point, you have to, as an AD, hit the reset button and say, I know what the traditional hire is here, but traditional's not working. We have to do something else. And that's what Shane is. Now, look, I don't know what's going to look like 5 years from now. There's no telling, but I do know what I see out of Shane is what I really like, and is what I would feel good about. If you're one of those season ticket holders, and your happiness is dictated so much by the success of Gamecock athletics, I feel pretty good about what Shane Beamer is doing.
Is there another program in the SEC right now that has done something fairly similar to what Coach Beamer is doing, working on year 2, that you could compare?
Oh, great question.
I mean, like, what about Arkansas? I mean,
Sam Pittman's done a terrific job in 2 short years. Now, Sam doesn't have. Oh, I got to be careful. Sam doesn't. I mean, those are 2 different personalities, right?
Yes.
Like, Sam is lovable as heck, and his players would run through a wall for him, and he's done great work already. But I don't know if Sam is going to be the relentless, tireless, energetic recruiter that Shane is. I think Shane is going to be at the top of that food chart. Doesn't mean he's going to out recruit everybody, because where he's recruiting versus where some of these other coaches are recruiting, it's two different things. It's apples and oranges.
Sure.
If you're Jimbo Fisher and you're recruiting at Texas A&M, first of all, you've got Texas. That's a huge advantage. And then you've got more money than God. That's a huge advantage. And now they have some momentum. But no, I think the Shane situation is fairly unique. I mean, you could take a look at what Coach Drinkwitz is doing at Missouri. They just had a good recruiting class. They did not have a great year, and they didn't expect to. But, he's a unique guy. He's definitely an outside-the-box guy. I don't know if he's going to work out well there in Como, but I was intrigued by the fact that they somehow came out of nowhere and had a really good recruiting class.
Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit. And I guess there's more comparison than one in terms of having success in the portal. You've got a guy who the players really like, a town that isn't necessarily loved from those who aren't around it. I don't know if you're having the success that Michigan State had this year, but to me, based on where Michigan State was, South Carolina was, the talent that's coming in and where that talent can then lead the team to. I mean, maybe this is me saying Michigan State, you got to wait a couple months here and see, but
yeah.
To my mind.
Yeah, and of course they weren't very good last year, and then they get the running back from Wake Forest, and they have a memorable year, and and then he gets an insane contract.
What do you think about that? $95 million for
they have some booster there. I can't remember his name, who just decided he wanted to. That's our guy.
Okay,
that's our guy. G him up. And that's what they did. But, it's a from a marketplace standpoint, it made no sense, but it doesn't have to make sense. If you got someone who's ready and willing to pour in that kind of money and they believe he's the guy, then go for it. Eventually, obviously, Shane, he's going to have to get a raise now. He's one of the lowest paid coaches in Power 5.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not getting $95 million from Ray Tanner in South Carolina.
No.
I love you, Shane, but you ain't getting $95 million. You might want it. Yeah, we'll advocate for you if you can get Carolina back up there. Knocking on the door of the playoffs and stuff. We can make some calls, but right now it's
again, year 2, year 3. That's going to be significant when it comes to all that. And if the program continues to take strides and make progress, well, then you can break some bank. But right now, I think Shane's got bigger things on his plate.
Yeah, it's
Tim Frisbee hit us up on Twitter with Kiffin and Ole Miss and what kind of comparing the momentum.
Oh yeah, sure. Great. Now, but here's the good to hear from Tim Frisbee. Here's the unique thing about Lane. So he had something that Shane Beamer and most new coaches don't have. He inherited a first-round draft pick quarterback.
Yeah.
Most programs with first-round draft pick quarterbacks, A, don't have their coach fired, and B, don't make a coaching change. But at the time, nobody knew that Matt Corral was a first-rounder.
Yeah.
He was struggling just to win the starting job. So that was very unique. I'm very curious to see what Ole Miss looks like next year, okay? Yeah. Because they don't have a Matt Corral waiting in the wings. But Lane Kiffin is a great offensive play caller. They do have some talent there. There is buzz in the air. So, yeah, I like the analogy. Now I want to see what Lane does without Matt Corral. I mean, Shane Beamer basically patched and sewed his way to a 7-win season with a bunch of guys like out of the movie The Replacements playing quarterback. I mean, that doesn't normally happen. So now he's got Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
Different deal.
A little different
deal. So I'll be very curious to see now how that offense looks. Everybody talked about the play calling this, the play calling that. I get it. It wasn't great for much of the regular season. There was a lot of learning on the job. There was also a scenario where nobody who was lining up against South Carolina defensively feared a whole lot from that offense, particularly the passing game, with a bunch of just emergency type quarterbacks. Well, now you actually have a guy that can make plays, and now you have whoever the coordinator is can actually get out the other side of that playbook and say, we can actually do this play because we actually have a quarterback that can make it happen.
Yeah, it's always important And the comparison question that I asked you, Mike, is a fair question, but it's also unfair in the sense that fans of their respective programs need to make sure that they look at each situation differently or separately, I should say, because there is an expectation now in this league and across the country. It's an instant gratification expectation. You see these quick turnarounds. I mean, Arkansas in year 2 winning 9 games or whatever it was this year, 9 or 10 games. Lane Kiffin and what he's done to, in a sense, Mike Leach, Josh Heupel, obviously there's a bunch going on with him up there. You see these fast turnarounds and you expect your team to be one as well, but your situation might be a little bit differently. But according to the last couple of days in the annual January 11th, let's rank the top 25 teams of 2022 before the transfer portal and signing classes and everything else are even done. Darren, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We said, fair or unfair, it's coming because of what happened in the bowl game and then getting, Rattler and all that. There are going to be expectations. And now all of a sudden, ESPN and even Dennis Dodd and a couple of others think Carolina might be a top 25 team. Who knows if they are? The fact is, it's January, and people are labeling that now. So fans will just need to be careful moving forward, and we'll have to see how it all unfolds next year.
Yeah, sometimes you got to pump the brakes a little bit. Sometimes you got to pump the brakes.
We don't even know who's going to be on the roster in 10 minutes, let alone in September.
Yeah, I mean it's January. I mean I don't start even looking at the schedule until a few months from now. When we get to spring football, then you start. Now you're forced to again put everybody under the microscope and see what it looks like, and then you take another sabbatical, and then you get ready for fall practice in August, and you have media days in late July. Like there's an itinerary that we all have covering this sport, but now look, people complain about polls, but they can't help but read them, right? So I don't blame anybody for putting them out there because it's clickbait. You put a preseason top 25 poll out. And January the 11th, they're going to get clicks. They just are. So I don't fault anybody for putting out a poll. I just don't put any stock into it.
No, I think The Athletic might have one out. I think I didn't click on the link, but I have already seen at least one. And I think,
I mean, like if you're, I know Andy Staples well. I do some work with him on Sirius XM. Like those guys are paid to put content out. And the fact of the matter is, you could put a nice, heartwarming story about Stetson Bennett and his JV high school days and how he, struggled to make weight. And you could put that on one side of the Athletic page, and you could put another one that just says preseason top 25 poll. And that's going to get a hell of a lot more hits than the heartwarming Stetson Bennett story. That's where we are. So people complain about polls and they hate polls and it's too early for polls, but I'll be damned if they don't look at them.
Yeah, they all do. They all do. I actually haven't looked at them yet. I just saw the headlines, and
I haven't either, but I will.
Yeah.
I'll get to it. I got a few other things on my plate. I've been juggling. I've been traveling across the country. I got
food.
Somebody just delivered my Goldberg's lunch at the Taylor's. A BLT waiting on me.
God bless DoorDash.
I think that's Uber Eats. I think I'm. Unfortunately, I'm contributing to the demise of local restaurants. I'm just learning how all this works. When you use these services, the restaurants that are partnering up with them, they're giving up like 25% of the receipts. And you say, well, why do they do it? Because they have to survive.
Right.
So I kind of feel a little bit guilty, but not enough to not have my food conveniently delivered while I'm doing your show.
I wouldn't feel that guilty because if you check the menu prices on Uber Eats or DoorDash and actually go to the restaurant and check the menu prices when you walk in the door, they're different.
Yeah, I know. I definitely overpaid for a BLT and two everything bagels for like $25.
I was about to say,
what the hell am I doing?
Yeah,
that's definitely not market value, but
we've had Moe's delivered before, and it was like, we spent $60 on Moe's, and then you go to Moe's and you're like, oh, it's actually only like $30 when you're here with the forms.
I know. It's amazing. We like last
convenience
fee. Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Last night I flew back from Arizona. I did the Seahawks Cardinals game in what they now call State Farm Stadium. I guess when the Tigers won their natty there a few years ago, it was something different. Back then it was still University of Phoenix Stadium, I believe. Anyway, so I fly back. I get home. It's in the afternoon. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. It's a cross-country flight. and I am not cooking dinner. The wife's not here, so I'm like, it's going to be food delivery time, and I am craving wings. And my main wings place, and you can ask JC about this from his time in Atlanta, is a place called Wing Ranch. And I could just go pick that up because that's right down the street. Well, they're closed on Mondays.
Oh,
they didn't get the memo that you probably do a lot of business tonight. Georgia playing in a national championship game. They didn't get the memo. So I had to go to Plan B, and I found another wing joint that's pretty good, but it's far away, and it was cold, and I'm tired. What I paid for an order of 20 wings, I mean, somebody ought to be arrested for that. But I needed it. I craved it. I overpaid, and I ate like a king during the game. So sometimes you just gotta do it.
Well,
America.
Not to just drag this out, but we do it from time to time when you're on. I'll share a quick similar story. My cousin was in in Charlotte for work last night. And Darren, I'm going to do this because I used to really love this place. I have a lot of respect for the brand still, but it's just not what it was. He went to eat at Wild Wings last night.
Yeah.
And watched the game at 7:30 just outside of Charlotte, kind of by UNC Charlotte.
You talking about Wild Wing Cafe?
Wild Wing Cafe.
Yeah.
Place I grew up in Mount Pleasant, basically. Started drinking in long before I was actually 21, but that's neither here nor there.
Fake
Darren will tell you, they used to have the best, biggest, juiciest wings. And
Yeah.
they got smaller and smaller and smaller. Anyways, Matt in our text last night said, I got here at 7:30 and they said, we're actually a little short on staff tonight and we're out of wings, so we're closing at 7:45. And he goes, dude, the national championship plays in 30 minutes. You're out of wings?
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened. Well, you see that kind of stuff happen more and more now. Places closed, not staffed, running out of items. This is the new economy that we're all living in. I'll tell you one quick Wild Wing story, and then I'm going to go enjoy my BLT.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah.
So when Wild Wing Cafe made its debut in Columbia,
in the Vista, you're talking about.
Well, yeah, they actually have 3 of them, I think.
They did Harbison and up there in Sandhill.
Yep. Nope. It's the food. It's Goldberg's Deli. We can't hear you.
Oh no.
His mic is muted. No.
We've Mike, we've lost the audio. Can you hear us?
Do you know what it is? It's an omen. It's your food.
There he is.
Okay, sorry about that.
Eat me now.
Goldberg's like, hey, pot, grab it, idiot.
Yeah, I know. They left. They already got their tip, so they're not staying around. So I go to we did the Dave Odom show on this particular night from the Wild Wing Cafe in Harbison. And this was Dave's final year. Things are not going well. There's the continual hot seat talk, but nothing has been established. And, Eric Hyman had already extended him after a bad year. There was, it didn't seem like Eric was really going to make a move unless somebody on the board forced him to make a move. And so you didn't really, Dave was very just kind of like, no, we're good. We got this. It's a bad year. We'll be back next year. I had heard differently. I'm hosting this show with Dave Odom, and my sources are telling me he's going to be fired.
Oh boy.
And Dave is saying, no, we're all good. Everything's fine. I see Rick Henry come in the door with a cameraman, a photog.
Oh no.
It's like the Grim Reaper.
I know Rick Henry's not there to talk about how good the chicken quesadilla is that night, or to ask a question about the free throw percentage this season. So Rick's there, the camera's on with the light, they're walking, and we're about to wrap up the show. And I know what Rick is he's going to ask Dave Odom, do you know you just basically got fired? I nudged Dave and I said, Dave, Rick Henry's here. And Dave, in his eternal optimism, like, that's great. Rick's covering the team. I like it. I said, no, Dave, I think he might be wanting to do a story on your future. I said, if you don't want to do it, the back door is over there. And he got up and walked out the back door No offense, Rick. I know you were doing your job. I was just looking after the coach there. So that was quite a night at Wild Wing Cafe because at that point everybody's like, "Why is Rick Henry here?" And word started to circulate, and it was. And here I am, like, "So, Coach, what do you think about the matchup coming up against Arkansas?" It was crazy, but that all happened at the Wild Wing Cafe.
Was that? Were y'all sitting up on the stage?
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't do it on like a little table outside. We would go up on the stage. They had a whole sound system.
Yeah.
So we are like, the lights are on and everybody's looking and talking, and it was it was an interesting scenario for Wild Wing.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember when Steve used to sit up there. He walked through. Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, all right. Well, Gamecocks got a big one this weekend.
Yeah, I did one with Steve at Pulliam Ford off a 2-notch road.
Yeah.
And there was
you drive your car out and have it stolen. It's a great
but prostitutes and homeless people right outside. I'm like, why are we doing this here? It's cold as hell. Nobody's there. And we're just sitting there, and I'm looking outside the windows like, yep, I wonder what she's up to tonight.
That's right. That's your ride?
Yeah. No, I could do a whole
cab, huh?
Listen, I could do a whole book on those coaches shows. I could do a whole the TV ones. They changed this now. I'm sorry. I know we're going long. We've got some guests coming up. Keith Allsep, really? Keith's coming on. All right, Keith. Love you, Keith.
Talk as long as you want. He'll be
all right. What's Keith gonna say? What is he gonna talk about? Come on, you already know. But no, we used to. The TV shows, we would film them Sunday morning at the old WIS studio. I guess it's still the WIS studio. So like you'd get back 2 a.m. from a road trip, wake up, crack of dawn, drive to a freezing cold studio and put on a suit. And then in the case of the last 2 years of Gamecock basketball, talk about 2 losses and go through the highlights. And I'm like, this is not great TV. But now they record it on site, and they don't, they do it much more efficiently. But back then, it was like that's the way we did it.
Yeah,
that's the way, and it was we had the 3 camera setup. It was like Wayne's World. It was very nice.
Not now. You can do it anywhere now. You can
do it anywhere.
Lobby.
Pre-record it. Nobody cares.
No.
Just get to the highlights and let Coach talk about the highlights. That's all. Nobody cares about anything else. Just go through the highlights and talk about what happened.
Yep. Yeah, it's like when Coach Holtz and Coach Spurrier used to throw the game ball in those shows. Who's that going to? John?
Yeah.
All right, John. Like he was throwing it, and some producers over there catching it. Like, thanks, Coach.
Well, the best too is like I would look up, and you've got people working the cameras and the audio, and they all were probably out. These are young guys out like late Saturday night, and they're like, "Oh God, what? Take 2? Okay, Zoom. You want me to zoom on the coach or Mike? I don't know, man. I'm just punching the clock, man. I didn't ask to do this show. Golly, I got better things to do on a Sunday morning. It was it was so just like ragtag. Like nobody wanted to be there on a Sunday morning doing a coach's show, but
not anymore.
I won't say it was great TV, but it was TV.
Well, you're great TV, Mike. Where can we find you on TV this week?
SEC Network, Wednesday evening, John Sunvold and I, Arkansas, Missouri.
Sonny.
Yeah, Sonny's my regular Wednesday partner. Love him. I've been working with him for years. And then I've got Joe Klein on Saturdays, the former big man in the NBA, played with Larry Bird, played with the Bulls on a couple of their title teams. Wow. And if a fight breaks out, I got Joe Klein. He's about 7 feet, 300. So
good thing you're sitting at the desk for the open.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. He also owns barbecue places in Little Rock. If you ever want some good good swine, yeah, he's got his own spot there. So
I love it.
All right, we covered it all.
We've kept you a long time. Thank you, man. We'll get more into hoops next week. But it's so great to catch up with you.
I've missed you guys. I don't know if it might be on just this side of the table, but I've missed you guys. So I look forward to talking to you soon.
We love you around here. You know that. Enjoy that BLT, and whatever else you got from Goldberg's.
All right. See you guys.
There you go. Mike Morgan with everybody. All right, what do you want to do? Do you want to take a break or do you want to go right to Keith?
I'd say let's take a break here and we'll get to him.
Okay, Keith, I got to use the bathroom as well. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit motleyrice.com for more. motleyrice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
Oh, Darren. Old Mike Bennett's making moves in Mount Pleasant again.
Oh, what do you do now?
It looks like he's bought the old property where Page's Thieves Market was. So looks like another hotel is going to Columbia.
I want to be Mike Bennett when I grow up.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah. If you become him and I don't get there, just cut me in on something, man. Whatever the scraps are, just cut me in. Keith Allsep, he's been waiting patiently. Sorry, man, we ran 30 minutes over with Mike Morgan. What's up?
I mean, riveting stuff on prostitutes and homeless people and stale chicken wings.
Always is, man. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, look, football season's over. You know, you got to turn the page, man. It's on to prostitutes.
Football season is not over. There are football games all weekend and on Monday night, and the best players in the world are playing football this weekend.
I must have read that wrong because it looked to me like the Chinese Football League was really popping this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's another Mike Morgan conversation. I'm sure he's got Chinese Football League right there with Dave Odom, prostitutes, homeless people, and stale chicken wings.
Hey, I've been to that Pulliam Ford. I actually went out there to look at a truck one time, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to stop here. And there's always like gatekeepers. If
Well,
you
I mean,
bought an
hey,
extended,
there's the Thoroughbred Inn. Maybe Mike's familiar with that place as well from his days in Columbia. I think they rented by the hour.
I know somebody
Also
who is.
on Two Notch Road.
Yeah, Two Notch Road is a
The Thoroughbred Inn.
Never mind. Well, let's ease out of it, Keith. We're gonna get somebody around here in trouble. It won't be me. I know that. All right. Well, so Georgia won. Did you see that? They played last night, the national championship.
I did, and I thought the Spurrier axiom is, well, usually when you got to kick a bunch of little field goals, it ends up coming back and biting you. And Alabama's tight end, after he makes a great play, drops a touchdown pass. They get down there again. They can't punch it in. Then Williams gets injured, and 7 and 84. I don't know really their names. Maybe Ja'Cory Brooks and 84 looked like he had never caught a football in his life. I mean, he dropped a perfectly thrown ball for a touchdown.
Was it Hall? Was Hall the other one?
Maybe. I think he's from Miami. He's tall, he's lanky, and he tried to catch it kind of like that. Yeah. I don't understand how he thought he would catch it like that. But
we used to teach that here at South Carolina, Keith, not too long ago, as a matter of fact.
They just couldn't make enough plays. Credit to Georgia. They had a great team, and Stetson Bennett and Georgia's freshman receivers made more plays than Alabama's backup freshman receivers, and I really thought that was the difference. Both teams played great defense.
Did y'all realize that Stetson Bennett has a year left? He can come back next year. I mean, I assume he is, right? He's not projected to be some major draft pick at this point, is he? Not that I'm aware of.
He doesn't seem
I
big
think
enough.
He'll come back, but I mean, what does that mean for all the other 5-star and 4-star quarterbacks Georgia stacked up?
Yeah.
Behind him. I mean, I think this is why a 12 or 18 playoff is more intriguing because of the injury factor. Okay, if Alabama is healthy, if they have John Mechie and Jamison Williams and their top cornerback, they are definitely the best team in college football. But without John Mechie and Jamison Williams for well over half of that game, and not having their top cornerback, that's what playing 3 or 4 games in an extended playoff will mean, and that's why it's more intriguing, but also for some fan bases potentially psychologically damaging as well.
Hey, what were all the reasons for all the secondary members being out of the game last night? Do y'all know? I know there were some bang-ups, but was any of it COVID related?
Well, no, the Alabama's best corner, he had a season-ending injury along with Mechie, and then, of course, Williams got hurt.
Yeah.
I just don't like, all these guys now, they want to wear their basically shorts for football pants. And I don't know. It's just
well, there wasn't that I knew of going into the game, or that I'm aware of even now. There was nobody out of this game, at least that would have had an impact on the game because of COVID, right? Either team.
Not that was public, no.
Okay, from either team. I mean, like, I don't remember anything in the broadcast where somebody is like, oh, this guy is not here tonight. And generally it's, you know what I mean? You know how those conversations go. Mm-hmm. That's surprising to me. Like, I don't think Bama actually went until Saturday. I don't know when Georgia necessarily got there. But, boy, they did an outstanding job of everybody that was available to play of keeping them clear of this virus to be able to play in the game.
Well, I think one thing is you don't see they're not testing vaccinated players.
Yep.
Okay.
Nope, they're not.
And so if you have 95%, 100% of your roster is vaccinated, or just if all your key guys are vaccinated, they're not getting tested. So, they're good to go. And quite frankly, at this point, with all that's on the line, why wouldn't you be vaccinated?
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right.
Hats off to them.
All right, Keith. So Georgia becomes the 5th SEC team to win a national championship since 2008. That is Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, and LSU. The 6th since the start of the BCS era, because I think a lot of us forget that T. Martin and the Vols won it that first season of the BCS. If there is to be another team that to enter this conversation, I don't want to call it a first timer, but another program to add to this list out of the Southeastern Conference in the next 5 years, who is it? Or who's best set up to be that program?
Well, it's Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Because they've got the $1 million per player in their recruiting class. They've got one of 5 national championship coaches. They have maybe the most awesome outdoor venue in all of college football, at least up to date. Obviously, the Rose Bowl would factor in there in Pasadena. And they've got all the resources, and they're in a football-rich state in Texas. So, to me, it's Texas A&M.
All right, so Alabama loses. They have lost national championships before. We've seen it. They bounce right back. Did they just bounce right back again?
I think they do, because that's what Nick Saban does.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien, and I'm not his agent and I can't speak for him, but he would be an idiot to go to the Carolina Panthers.
He's mentioned for the Jags too.
Or
for
the
Jags head coaching job?
Yep.
Wow.
You could justify the Jaguars more because they're getting another number 1 overall pick this year. They've got a franchise quarterback. The Panthers have neither. And they got a coach that's on a short leash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien is going to be able to coach a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback next year. He should wait for either a big-time college head job or another NFL head coaching job. If somebody calls him to be an offensive coordinator, but should be like, no, call me back if you want me to be your head coach.
Yeah, he's got any. I know you're a Bill O'Brien fan, Darren. He's got all the pull with his future. I think he is outstanding.
He's a great play caller. He's a good head coach. He's a great offensive mind. If someone wants to turn the keys of the franchise to him, I don't think that's a great idea after what he did to the Texans.
No,
but football-wise, coaching, yeah.
Not a GM should not have control over player personnel. How in the hell do you trade Nuke Hopkins, who is the childhood friend of your franchise quarterback, and think that's going to work out well for you? It was great play caller, excellent head coach. He's set. I think he can sit there and be the most patient of anybody, because what if Nick Saban next year says, well, I'm hanging it up? Well,
hey,
Bill O'Brien's right there, and he's been there, and he's been calling plays and coaching maybe a 2-time Heisman Trophy winning quarterback.
That's a very interesting, very actually interesting thought. I have not thought about that. Doesn't appear that that's anytime near with Saban, because somebody had a picture of him from like Michigan State versus yesterday. He looks the same. It's amazing, except he had these big old thick glasses on when he was up there running the Spartans program. Keith, I do want to turn the page because we get a segment a week with you, and we've only got 15 minutes left. But South Carolina right now is cleaning up on the transfer portal front. Gamecocks have a top 10 transfer class. If you'd like to look at those rankings like that, I'm an overall guy, basically a top 20 class out there. But overall, they're last year they got their needs on the defensive side. This year, heavily on the offensive side, with the latest news of Antoine Wells, a wideout from JMU. Christian Beal-Smith, the leading rusher for the last 2 seasons at Wake Forest. He's fun to watch, and he's coming to play for the Gamecocks. They're really – these are our needs. Okay, let's go get them. And Shane Beamer and his staff have hit every one of them thus far on the head, and they're not done yet. It's amazing what they've done over the last couple of weeks.
No, I mean, I think you look at the culture that Shane Beamer is building. You look at all the guys that could have said, hey, peace out. I've done my 4 years, my 5 years, but I could come back. Now I'm out of here. Look at Arkansas. They're winning, and guys are bugging out like nobody's business. Then you get Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner, and then you beat the brakes off North Carolina 38-21, and your offense looks like, where was that all year? It's dynamic. And by the way, you've got Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner, and they need a running back. They need a wide receiver. And, quarterback, Spencer Rattler. Other than maybe Caleb Williams, who's in his league in the portal? Nobody. Christian Beal-Smith. What about the last guy that transferred out of Wake Forest? That turned out pretty well for Kenneth Walker.
No kidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Antoine Wells, all he's done is broke records. And I had Ben Portnoy from the state on my podcast this morning, and he talked to Tino Sinceri, who played at Alabama and was a GA at Alabama and wound up coaching at James Madison this year. And in his opinion, not in my opinion, but in his opinion, and he's seen him play, he said this cat is right there with John Mechie, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, and others that have come through Alabama. Now, if that's the case, and you've added that kind of guy with Spencer Rattler, with the running backs you've got, Marshawn Lloyd, a former 5-star guy, Austin Stogner, an NFL guy, Jaheim Bell.
He's an NFL guy.
And Josh Van coming back, Amarian Brown, and you're probably not done. There's probably another receiver in the portal.
There is.
You return your entire offensive line. It's no coincidence South Carolina is on the front page of ESPN.com saying South Carolina makes way too early, top 25. Mm-hmm. There's momentum. There's going to be expectations in year 2 for Shane Beamer at South Carolina. And we didn't even talk about the defensive guys, because if you could add a guy to take the place of Jalen Foster, it is Devontae Reed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Keith, so many I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form as negative at all, but our job is to look into this stuff as much as we can and be educated, and then go out and talk and educate other people. That's what we're here for, so they can kind of learn as much as we can. Of course, we're lucky around here, and I know you are, Keith, because we intertwine with a lot of the same audience. So we've got some pretty intelligent folks that at least chime in on our chat lines every day. But that being said, there is a lot of people out there that, unless you're a transfer from a Power 5 school, Rattler, Stogner, those made waves. But there's still a group of people that isn't going to be impressed by just the names, Devontae Reed and Antoine Wells, because they came from JMU and Central Michigan. And I would make the argument clear as day, outside of Rattler, because as Darren always points out, you got to have an elite quarterback in order to make a dent in college football. I would argue those two guys are the impact players over everybody else that they have signed thus far that you really need. I mean, they're really good. And I didn't know who they were. I had to go look at who they were, and I would not even be paying attention to who they were had they gone somewhere else. Great. They got a guy from CMU. Who cares? But when you actually go look at them, you go, well, now wait a second here. These dudes can play. When you look at those guys comparatively to the other transfers, no disrespect to anybody, Keith, it sounds like you see the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I see Devontae Reed as a guy that has 281 career tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 a pick six against LSU, by the way. And a guy that had, Texas, Missouri, Miami, Louisville, Auburn, a lot of schools, they wanted this guy. And the same with the other guys as well. They all had Power 5 offers from virtually every Power 5 conference on the map, and they chose to come to South Carolina and did it rather quickly. And now all of these guys, with the exception of Austin Stogner, who's not moving out until March or late March when he finishes up his degree at Oklahoma, they're all going through spring football practice. And so they just integrate completely into your program, and your roster's really balanced moving into the summer and into fall camp.
Keith Allsep, host of the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast 151, Tuesday afternoon here. Post-national championship, Dogs win, of course. All right, Keith, think about this time, right? So Shane Beamer finishes his first year at South Carolina, and what surrounds him is a Clemson team that's clearly had the upper hand in this series by a large margin since 2014. They've won a pair of national championships. Your other rival just won a national championship for the first time in over 40 years. And here you are stuck right between them, trying to find relevancy. This transfer portal has kind of fallen in your lap where it's something you can dig into. What's most important for Shane Beamer, his staff? He's still trying to find an additional staff member. Might be some reshuffling of staff duties moving forward as well. Who knows? But we'll find out. But I mean, what's most important? Because what surrounds you is a lot of success right now, and he's trying to get Carolina back to having a seat at that table. So what's important in the next 3 or 4 months for this program?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, they've got junior days coming up for the next 3 weekends. And to me, it's important to capitalize on the momentum. You've got momentum. You've got juice with the national media. You're on the cover of ESPN or front page of ESPN.com. You've got to capitalize on Spencer Rattler. You've got to capitalize on the momentum of year one by having some great junior days, by getting those guys around your players, seeing the buy-in of the culture, and trying to get yourself out to an early lead on some of these guys. And then obviously you need to stay injury-free. But for Shane Beamer, he needs to be on every podcast, radio show, TV, sports show out there, banging the drum and talking it up about what a successful season they had at South Carolina, and they're just getting started, because they are.
Totally agree. Yeah, he's done a great job of that since he's been at Carolina. I mean, he's all over the place, man. I mean, he does everything, and I don't know how he does it, but he does. And he has found a way to stick to his guns, whether we like it or not. He doesn't care about that. Shane has been focused one step at a time, and so far, so good. Keith, I do want to turn the page and get to hoops, because there's a great opportunity in front of the Gamecocks tonight to go back into the Volunteer State and win another ball game. This is going to be a different challenge than what they had against Vanderbilt last weekend, certainly, but you still got to play the game. As Mike Morgan pointed out earlier, you never know what Tennessee's going to do offensively. Maybe tonight will be an off night. Generally, that doesn't mean that for South Carolina. It means it'll be an on night. But it is 6:30 on the SEC network. Tom Hart has the call. Top 10 net ranking team here, quad one opportunity for South Carolina. Keith, what'd you see against Vanderbilt, and how does it translate to tonight?
Well, I thought it was a big win over Vanderbilt, simply because you got the monkey off your back of, quite frankly, playing like crap up there, and essentially guys not even bothering to show up the last 3 or 4 times you played up there. There have been some inexcusable losses. Vanderbilt this year, Stackhouse has got some dudes, and they're playing well. I mean, they just had won. They're coming off a win at Arkansas, earlier in the week. So I thought that was a huge win, some positive momentum. I'm a huge Rick Barnes guy. I mean, I know Rick Barnes. I got to know him when he was the coach at Clemson. When he was at Texas, now he's at Tennessee. By and large, he's had Frank Martin's number there.
Yeah.
And look, Tennessee has better players than South Carolina. I know they lost a couple of tough games, but I just think to try to get it into the last 5 minutes where, anything can happen, I think that's got to be the goal. You got to withstand the first half. You can't go through a 4-minute scoreless drought and be down 19 at halftime or 13 at halftime, and have to work and claw and scrape to get back in it. And then you're all of a sudden out of gas. I mean, I do like this team. I thought South Carolina needed to start 2-3 would be a good start because of how tough the early schedule is. Getting that win at Vanderbilt was a big step. If they get this win tonight, then I think that puts them ahead of the curve and sets them up to start getting in the conversation of being the NCAA tournament for the first time since, that magical Final Four run in 2017.
Yeah, they get Florida coming up next on Saturday at Colonial Life Arena, and of course tonight is a quad one chance here. Who are they, Keith? I know we have a couple of minutes left, but they are obviously coming off of a COVID pause and things of that nature, which is generally not good, especially under Frank. You got to keep playing as much as you can. But when you look at this team, what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses?
Well, I mean, I think you can't talk enough about the improved play of Wildens Levesque. I mean, they don't win that game.
Great point.
If it's not for him. I mean, he made a couple of big-time plays in that game that were like, wow, that is an NBA post move. That is an NBA defensive play. And then, they're getting good guard play from their freshman guards, Jacoby Wright and Devin Carter. It's taken some of the pressure off Jermaine Cousinard, who God knows has been through more than anybody his age should have to go through the last couple of years. Keyshawn Bryant's back, A.J. Wilson. I mean, they've got a deep team. Josh Gray needs to keep getting better. Brandon Martin is in the rotation. I mean, they've got a deep team. Reese and Stevenson, those guys have been invaluable, even though, Stevenson early in the season, he got off to a unbelievably tough start. He's knocking down shots, and they need if they're going to win tonight, they can't.
They got to shoot
what they did from 3 at Vanderbilt, right? Like it was abysmal. Like I think they shot over 70% from 2 and, couldn't throw one in the ocean from behind that line. They've got to make threes tonight if they're going to win.
And you know what, Keith? They just need to make their open shots. I mean, they generate open shots and they miss a lot of them. They just got, we're not asking. It's not like they need to, be able to hit them with a guy in their face all the time. Frank, his guys, they get open. But they don't knock them all down. They got to start knocking those down. I agree.
I'm guessing tempo tonight is going to be a big thing. Like Auburn was a bad matchup and how they want to play, and Tennessee's not too different from that. So if they can learn something from the Auburn game and come out of the gates defensively, like he said, don't get run out of the gym early. So defensively, that's where I'm going. Stay in the game late. I think that's the key.
Great point.
I mean, yeah, Rick Barnes, he does a great job. I think he's about as good as there is in the business. I mean, it's a tough matchup because guess what? He recruits elite players.
Yeah.
Just like Bruce Pearl recruits elite players. I mean, when you've got elite guys, versus just older guys that have developed and some young guys, you got to bring your A game. Like you probably got to shoot, 40% from three tonight, I think. 38 to 40% from three, and then you got to get to the free throw line because sometimes they just don't get to the free throw line.
That's a great point.
They've got to get to the free throw line and then make them, because guess what? They don't make them at a high clip either.
Yeah, it's a great point, Keith.
Yep. So that's what I say. I
know
we're up against it.
No, it's a great point. Yeah, you look up sometimes it's strange. Other teams shot 18, you've shot 4. They gotta change that, no doubt. By the way, it's a great slate of hoops tonight in the SEC. The Iron Bowl of basketball plays Auburn and Alabama on ESPN at 9:00. 4th ranked Auburn at 24th ranked Alabama. You don't see that often in that series. I'm sure Darren's going to be betting on that one. You've also got a great rivalry in the Big 12. Oklahoma is at Texas at 8:30. But how about this? It's on the Longhorn Network. Yeah, hopefully you've got it. Texas is a 6.5-point favorite there. 15th ranked Iowa State is at 9th ranked Kansas at 8:00 tonight. 18th ranked Kentucky is at Vanderbilt. Vandy looking to bounce back after losing at home, as Keith just discussed, against the Gamecocks this weekend. And in addition to South Carolina and Tennessee, you got 19th ranked Texas Tech on the road at top ranked Baylor. If Texas Tech wins, that would be Baylor's first loss of the year, although that seems unlikely right now. The Bears are 12-point favorite. So a lot of great hoops going on in the state of Texas tonight, Keith, where you are, but I know your eyes will be on the one in Tennessee. Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, can't leave without saying Aaliyah Boston won her 3rd SEC Player of the Week award. Just unbelievable how dominant she has been in a matchup of what was supposed to be the 2 leading contenders for SEC Player of the Year. It was all Boston and all Gamecocks. Ryan Howard, 1 of 11 and 1 for 4 from the free throw line going into the 4th quarter. She was a total non-factor. Boston, her 9th consecutive double-double. That record goes all the way back to 1978. I believe it was Sheila Foster. If she gets another double-double at home against Texas A&M on Thursday, that'll be a program record. I mean, look.
Wow.
Asia Wilson didn't do that. Elena Coates didn't do that.
Wow. Might be on her way to a National Player of the Year honor. Keep an eye on that.
She's the front runner
right now.
Not really close right now.
It's not close, no doubt. The Locked On the Gamecocks podcast should always be close to your hearts and your ears. He's the host, and Keith Allsep is excellent at what he does, and we're always happy to have him on Tuesdays. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Pull those Gamecocks through tonight.
Yep, thanks. Hey, we got Colin Taylor tomorrow. It's a big hail yes for the Locked On the Gamecocks podcast on Thursday, Hail McGranahan. And then on Friday, Mike Yuva and I will talk Gamecocks, but we'll also do an NFL playoff preview show to get everybody primed and ready for, I think, if the first weekend of the playoffs is as fascinating as the last Sunday, hopefully there are not as many bonehead decisions as Brandon Staley, and he's not related to Deuce Staley or Dawn Staley, that's for sure.
None of the Staleys are related.
That guy may have had the biggest or the biggest brain fart in the history of NFL coaching decisions, calling that timeout. When the Raiders were going to be content to just let the play clock run down, run it one more time, and let the clock run out. That's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Rich Bisaccia basically said that in the postgame.
He said Derek Carr. Yeah. He said it changed their minds totally. But the Raiders are in and the Chargers aren't, and it is what it is.
So are the Steelers.
Yeah, and so the Steelers. The Steelers are in too. Big Ben.
The quarterback, Justin Herbert. What a performance by him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
7 former Gamecocks are in the NFL playoffs as well, for those interested in that number. Thanks, Keith. Good stuff.
Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of the week.
Oh, absolutely. You too, man. There you go. That's it for us. We're 5 minutes past due. We're out of time, out of breath. All the no structure to anything we did today. Just chopping it up.
I got to fix the internet in the house. It went out on me on Sunday morning. I redid it. Now I got to redo it again. You probably noticed the camera being all jumpy. I'll fix it.
I thought that was just you playing games with me.
Maybe.
I thought that was your mind. You're trying to be a mime.
That'd be a good one.
Dogs win. Dogs win. They're peeing on fire hydrants all over the state of Georgia. Watch out if you're driving through. I'm just kidding. I'm actually not kidding. It's probably happening. Everybody get some sleep like I'm sure Bennett is right now. Thanks to Mike Morgan, Keith Allsep, Darren Goldwater, and all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon at the Dog and Duck. If you haven't been, go. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes. Hopefully.